All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to go over the whole Renato Moicano versus Brendan Schaub situation that has unfolded over the last couple of weeks or so, all over Renato Moicano not taking the settlement money from the UFC and the whole class action lawsuit ordeal. Okay, up until yesterday, I didn't think there was enough there or that it was worth doing a video on. But on yesterday's episode of The Fighter and the Kid, we got to witness a bit of a crash out from Brendan, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious, so I want to cover that. But I also want to go over the timeline briefly, because I feel like this is a problem that Schaub runs into from time to time, okay? He'll make a point about something that people, for the most part, agree with, and then the rare times he actually has the fan base on his side, he completely squanders it by continuing on, not understanding points that get made, and of course being overly sensitive when people take small jabs at him after he spent 20 minutes ranting and screaming about that particular someone. And whether or not you agree with Renato Moicano's decision, I think he did a much better job at articulating his thoughts and his points compared to Brendan. So that's what we're gonna do, okay? We will very briefly cover how it started, and then we will get to Moicano's very small, very quick shot that he took at old Brenda, and then we can get to the crash out. All right, so let's get into the clips.
This is how stupid fighters are. They think, and they're underpaid, and that's a whole nother story. And people are like, I don't understand why more fighters don't ask for better pay. This is why. This dude is brainwashed that thinks he's being a company man by not taking the lawsuit money. He thinks that he's showing loyalty to the fucking man by not taking this money that he's earned. That's how brainwashed a lot of these fighters are. I'm going, nah, I'm so loyal to the UFC. It's like, it's a cult. It's a fucking cult. You're no different than the family of Charles Manson. And I'm pretty sure he has children, right? That's what pisses me off. If you're single and you're young, you're like, whatever, and your primary career, I can kind of see it. You're still brainwashed. I can kind of see it. If you have a family and you have fucking children, $200,000 in Brazil is a lot. So he has one son, Isaac, who's born in 2020, and another child on the way. His wife is currently pregnant, and you're not taking, it's pissing me off, and you're not taking $200,000, and you're a fucking prize fighter. Here's the thing. It's over, Moicano, too, bud. You fought for the title. It's never happening again.
All right, so this was just a little over a minute that I clipped from Brendan's initial rant, which, by the way, I'm not exaggerating, lasted about 20 fucking minutes. Okay, now, in that 20 minutes, he did make some good points and was at times quite complimentary of Moicano, but I wanted to show you guys some of the more heated sections of it, because in my opinion, it kind of justifies, or at the very least explains, why Moicano would make a joke about Brendan during his interview with Ariel Helwani. I mean, just in this minute alone, he called him stupid, brainwashed, and whatever else. By the way, all over a reason that Moicano didn't really fucking give. Schaub thinks that this is solely about loyalty to the UFC, and I guess so did a lot of people, which is why Moicano would ultimately go on Helwani's show in an attempt to clarify. All right, also, the clip Schaub was reacting to, just want to point out, is from Renato Moicano's own podcast, okay? So just keep that in the back of your mind, put a pin in it for later. It will become relevant. But either way, let's move on to Moicano. During his interview with Ariel Helwani, where he explained himself for an extended period of time.
And the second point is the whole lawsuit stuff was based on UFC is a monopoly. I think they should treat the athletes better. I think they should pay more money. And so they filed the lawsuit with the lawyers. They went to the court, and at one point they say, no, let's settle this down. And they do agreement with the fighters in UFC, and they say, no, we're gonna give you 300 and I don't know how much millions, and they dropped the lawsuit. So that was not about UFC being a monopoly. That was the way for the lawyers and the fighters to get money, you know? Because if that was about UFC being a monopoly, they would say, no, I don't want the money. I want UFC labeled as a monopoly. Let's go to the court and let the judge decide if this is a monopoly or not. But no, they choose the money. And what that means, based on their actions, I don't think that was about doing good for the athletes. I think the lawyers, they took more than 20%. That means they took more money than most of the fighters, if not all the fighters. So 20% of 300 million is a lot of money. So in the end of the day, this is for the lawyers to make a quick cash, for the fighters to grab the money.
Okay, now before we get to the shot at old Brenda, I just wanted to play that clip because I feel like this is a point that Moicano has made throughout this whole ordeal that no one really wants to try and address or argue. Now, in the case of Brendan Schaub, it's most likely because he didn't actually fucking listen, which is why he literally cannot understand Moicano's reason for not taking the money and continues to make up some narrative about Moicano just trying to be a company guy or a loyal independent contractor or whatever the fuck. It is a tough point to reckon with though, okay? Everything in that lawsuit. Also, I just want to point out that Moicano can say lawsuit better than Brendan can, but that's neither here nor there. But everything in that lawsuit that was not just money, right? Changes to how the UFC would have to operate, co-promoting with other organizations, revenue share, all the rest of it is gone now because they settled for cash. And it's just funny because I see a lot of people acting as though, and Brendan being one of them, that a settlement inherently means the fighters in this regard were correct and the UFC basically received a fucking guilty ruling, or I guess, you know, a civil matter, so they'd be found liable or whatever. But that's not what a settlement means, okay? And I know there's going to be people who say, but if you want to settle, then you're probably guilty. That is also not fucking true, right? I could be incorrect here, but based on my own personal experience, lawyers become a hell of a lot more expensive during trial than they are for discovery and whatever else. The UFC could have viewed this as just saving money on lawyer fees and also getting rid of any potential that a judge would rule against them. It's just risk management. Now, the judge very well could have, and honestly most likely would have, ruled against the UFC, but guess what? That doesn't fucking matter now because they settled.
And principles. And fuck
Last
everyone
thing
else.
that I want to
Yes.
say, last thing that I want to say is, sometimes when I'm doing the Show Me the Money podcast, I cannot articulate like that. I cannot say the things that I believe on because it's a 1 hour show and I have to be funny. You know, I have to be funny. I want to be funny.
Sure.
I'm speaking on my second language, and so that's why I can understand why the people clip and they say, hey, this guy is dumb, you know? And if you think yourself as dumb, think the people that watch the Brendan Schaub show on YouTube, the comedian, the special, that's fucking terrible. Okay, brother? Even I can do better than that shit, brother. And I don't even speak English, and I can be funnier than you, my brother.
My
So,
gosh. Papa catches a stray. Oh dear. Oh
okay.
dear.
Thank you so much, Ariel, for the platform.
Always.
Everybody that wants to follow me, go to my social media, Money Moicano on YouTube. And if you want, buy a fucking t-shirt, my brother.
Yes.
Hey, this is the Portuguese one. You know, I have both now.
Yes, we have two now. You see, we show you love.
Thank you so much. Renato Moicano and the Money Moicano. Show me the money, all that stuff, you know. I'm not in the good wise with the UFC, so buy my stuff and support me on the social media.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that was the very small jab that Renato Moicano took at Brendan, by the way, as we watched earlier, after being called stupid, brainwashed, and whatever fucking else old Brenda said in his initial rant. All things considered, if you ask me, that was pretty tame from Renato Moicano, and not to mention true, okay? He is funnier than Brendan Schaub. Now, if I was Schaub, I would have just considered this all water under the fridge. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd be thinking, I went off on this guy for a solid 20 minutes, and he just made a slight joke, 30 seconds or so, at the end of a 45-minute long interview. But of course, Brendan's ego is too fragile for that, and he just could not let it go.
He responded to me criticizing him for not taking the money. Now, let me be very upfront here. Him not taking the money helps me out. So at the end of the day, I don't give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
It actually puts more money in my pocket, Don Cerrone's pocket, some other fighters that could probably use it. But here's my thing, Bubba, and I'm a fan of Moicano. I expect a rebuttal. Whenever you criticize a fighter, we're fighters.
Well, I think you went hard in the press. I think what he
hold on, let me finish. Yeah. So whenever you call out a fighter, I expect a response. They're fighters. You call me out, if you're just a general fan or hater, I don't respond. If we're from the same alumni or you're professional, well, now you got my attention. And because I'm not going to come off as a bully there. Like with Nate Diaz, that's not bullying. He called me out. We're from the same fraternity. We can both fight. So if we fight, we both have a set of skills and we both agree to it. That's different than if you're just some schmuck at the bar. That's not cool. If a professional beats up a average Joe, that's bullying, and that's not the way to do things. But if you're from the same fraternity, the UFC fraternity, well, now we can both play in this game. But here's the thing with Moicano is if you're going to start a beef, if you're going to go back and forth, buddy, you can't wait. No, hold on. You can't wait 10 days to respond. I don't know if it's a language barrier. I don't know if it's translation thing where they had to figure out what I said. Either way, your handlers, you can't get back to me after 10 days. I've moved on.
All right, now this was basically at the very beginning of the latest episode of The Fighter and the Kid, and I think that most of you would agree with me. Brendan has clearly not moved on, okay? By the time he's finished with this rant, he's now racked up about 35 minutes of yelling about Renato Moicano's decision to not take a fucking settlement check. Meanwhile, Moicano mentioned him for about 30 seconds. So I do love that Schaub needs to make sure the audience knows he doesn't give a fuck about this, but now is going to yell about it for the next 10 minutes or so. So let's continue, okay?
When someone and fans are hitting me up like, oh, Moicano's taking shots, I went, what? Who? About what? I've moved, dude, this is 10 years. It's like with Nate Diaz. It took him several days to respond, and all he said was, you'd be surprised. Well, first of all, I've already moved on in my life, dude. And second of all, that's not original. That's so weak. You're making a reference from fucking 12 years ago. And your team, your handlers, that's what you got. And with Moicano, right? And this is prototypical chat GPT. How do I talk shit to Brendan Schaub? Here it is. He's dumb. He's a meathead. He's bad at podcasting. He was a bad fighter. If I post a truck, did you flip it? The standard shit, right? The standard shit. None of it's original. So his team put in chat GPT. How do I talk shit to Brendan Schaub? Again, he's in Brazil, so I don't know. Maybe it's a translation issue.
Yeah.
All right, now I do want to point out the absolute and utter irony of Brendan Schaub complaining about a lack of originality when referring to jokes. I mean, for fuck's sakes, this guy literally stole jokes, okay? But also, towards the end of that clip there, I mean, for someone that doesn't read the comments, Brendan is pretty plugged into what people are saying about him because literally none of what he just said was shit that Moicano said to him. Moicano said, quote, if you think of yourself as dumb, just imagine the people that watch the Brendan Schaub show on YouTube, end quote. Didn't mention podcasting other than the fact that Brendan had a show. Sure as fuck didn't mention Schaub being a meathead, didn't mention his fighting career, him flipping his truck, or any of what Schaub just ranted about, okay? Honestly, it sounds like Brendan has a lot of insecurities about the shit that he does in his life, but even if Moicano did use ChatGPT for that one-liner, it just proves that even a computer, even an AI is funnier than Schaub, okay? But let's continue.
If you think yourself as dumb, I never said I was dumb. I might call myself an idiot, but compared to him, I'm Elon Musk.
Well, he's not talking to you about that.
Think about my fans, which is, if you're listening to me, that means I'm dumb and he's dumb and the fans are dumb, right? And then he goes, Brendan Schaub's show on YouTube. Oh, it's a podcast, mainly audio. We do YouTube just for the fuck of it.
So he
and
said,
the comedy
read
special.
The whole quote,
hold on. And the comedy special. Oh, you're talking about from 5 years ago?
Yeah.
This is, so it's just like, dude, and again, if you were going to come with this rebuttal, you got to do it at least within 24 hours. Otherwise, I'm out, bud. I'm not going to play your game. But if you're going to wait a fucking week, 10 days, however long this took to come up with this rebuttal, it has to be good. Then I'm like, all right, they took their time. They probably got some writers. Then I'm in.
Quote, I never called myself dumb. I might say I'm an idiot. End quote. For fuck's sakes, Brendan, those are called synonyms. Okay, not cinnamon, synonyms. I mean, what the actual fuck? But also, Brenda, who just called out Moicano and Nate Diaz for that matter, for a lack of originality. starts doing the Andrew Dice Clay, oh, you can't make this shit up. Even Callan appeared to be visibly cringing at that whole shtick right there. But before even that, he said, quote, compared to him, I'm Elon Musk. What exactly do you mean by that, Brendan? If by Elon Musk you mean a spurgy fuck that stutters when he talks and takes way too many mind-altering substances, then sure. But if you are implying that compared to Moicano, you are some kind of genius, then what the fuck are we doing here? You are literally yelling about something while claiming you aren't gonna play his game. Quote, if you would have responded in 24 hours, maybe I'll play this game, but now I'm out. While ranting about it for 13 fucking minutes, okay? And I find that absolutely fucking hilarious. And again, whether or not you think Moicano is misguided or whatever, if you listen to his reasoning, he seems to have put more thought into this than almost anything Brendan has ever done, okay?
And here's the other thing. If you're gonna respond and then make fun of me, how no one watches my show, or I can't podcast, can't do this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Bud, to get your message out, you have to go on another man's show to reach me. I sit down over there in a chair for the last fucking 12 years and get my message out. And you saw it. It got to you. You have to call another grown man who's built their platform, and near Helwani has a big platform, just to reach me, bud. I do it from here, and you're making fun of me.
Wait, it might have been that he let it go and then Ariel asked him about it.
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't have a fight coming up. This is the only thing that's current in
But
his
he
life.
wasn't he on Ariel when he said that?
Correct, Brian. That's the point.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah.
No, but did he go on?
Hold on. Yeah.
No, but he didn't go on.
Brian doesn't
he
get it.
didn't
Let me
go
do this.
on. He didn't
He
go
went on Ariel
on.
to address this. He doesn't have a fight
Only
coming
that?
up. He doesn't
Or
have a
did
fight
he go
coming
on
up.
there for other things?
He doesn't have a fight coming up.
Right. Huh.
So if you're going to go on shows, it's usually because you have something to promote, correct? A
Yeah.
fight, maybe release some brand or some brand deal.
Yeah.
No, he went on another grown man show to get the message out because he can't do it from here.
Jesus fucking Christ. The insane amount of condescension, while being completely wrong, is maybe the most Brendan Schaub thing of all time. Okay, like I said in my last video about him, he is very often just confidently wrong about things and will act like he's got it all figured out. Before we get to that though, remember that I said keep in mind where the original clip that Schaub responded to was actually from, okay? It was from Moicano's own fucking podcast. So no, you absolute buffoon, he doesn't need to use someone else's platform, because from his own platform, he had you on a 20-minute long rant screaming about another grown man's decisions, okay? Again, too, bringing up something Moicano didn't say regarding his views or how poorly his shows are doing. I think it's just bugging Brenda, and it's constantly at the back of his mind that TFATK and whatever else he does is just not what it used to be. And Moicano, who has 2 YouTube channels, one in Portuguese and one in English, gets comparable views to Brendan, who's been doing it way longer with a lot more subscribers, okay? Then we get to Schaub, whose ego is so fucking massive and fragile that he thinks Moicano went on Helwani's show just to talk about him, when in reality, it was to talk about the situation more broadly. Brendan barely got brought up. Helwani wanted to ask him about not taking the money and how, why, whatever he came to that decision, which means Callan was correct, by the way. Yet we got that whole fucking telephone call bit from Schaub over there. Must have been calling his handlers B.
And then he's trying podcasts, and everyone their mom is, right? Weird. Who's the first UFC fighter to do a podcast? Do you know who it is? Right? So he's gonna launch a podcast. You're gonna call it "Show Me the Money," and then when they show you the money, you turned it down. Oh, but I'm the dumb one.
Do you think that the clapback came as a result of you saying he'd never be champion?
Probably.
Yeah.
And I stand by that. I'm not trying to hurt his feelings. Let's go black and white here. Take feelings out of it. Let's be analytical. Let's take feelings out of it. If you look at his record, and I'm not being mean. This is, if I did not know him, we didn't have this beef. You look at the lay of the fucking land at 55 that he's fighting at. Anytime he's fought top echelon competition, he has lost.
Okay, now I do find it absolutely fucking hilarious that Brendan has now done basically everything he accused Moicano of doing and is acting like he's the one that's clapping back. Okay, when this fucking mongoloid was the one who started this shit. Hello? Moicano never said anything to you until you went on a 20-minute rant about his decision. But since then, and even before his jokes, you took shots at his intelligence, literally called him stupid and brainwashed. Now you've taken shots at his podcast by saying he's trying to podcast now, everyone and their mother is. And you have now multiple times kind of shat on his fighting career. By the way, I wouldn't necessarily consider it shitting on his fight career. However, if someone went at Schaub's career the way that he has been going at Renato Moicano's career, he would undoubtedly call them a hater, okay?
But again, he's a smart dude. I'm not going to call him dumb and all this shit and blah, blah, blah. But he might be playing checkers. I'm sorry, he might be playing chess and we're playing checkers. Because he might be thinking, I don't know what they pay him. It's probably a good amount of money with how many fights he has, right? And he fought for that main event, probably got a good payday. He's fighting top echelon guys. He might be saying, hold on. The smart, and he's a smart dude, so maybe he's doing this. He's already lost 2 in a row. You lose another one, it's going to get dicey. He might say, instead of taking this antitrust lawsuit money, which he said was, I think, 200 or 300,000, it's not. I know that how they break it down. He was going to get about 120,000. So he's off even on his numbers. I just don't think he has the facts. So he's not actually turning down 200,000 like he said. He's probably turned down a low 100-something thousand, which is still a lot of money.
Yeah, but after taxes.
But he makes, after taxes, all that. But he probably makes more fighting, right? So the smart thing to do, if he thinks Dana's going to scratch his back, which I doubt he is, maybe they are, is I'm a 2-fight losing skid. They give me a bad matchup, I'm fucked, dude. I'm going to make way less more money. I'm going to make way less more money. I'm going to make way less more money. If I can just win one more, that's going to extend my career another 2 to 3
exciting,
fights.
fan favorite.
Yes, so that's going to extend my career another 2 to 3 fights.
Smart.
So by turning this $100,000 down,
He makes a lot more.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
Okay, now guys, don't worry. All right, Moicano is gonna make way less more money. Okay, now I just find it fucking insane that all of this hullabaloo, meaning Schaub turning himself red like a Roma tomato, could have just been avoided had he just listened to what Renato Moicano said, or maybe he did and he just can't understand it. Honestly, that would be funnier, but it's one of the two for sure, because in the first crash out, he made up this like loyalty reason like we've spoken about a few times, and now he's gone and made up another reason when in between the 2 crash outs from Brenda, Moicano has explained clear as fucking day. Again, whether or not you agree with him, he has explained his position clear as fucking day, why he did not take the money, but I digress. Let's continue.
I think he's playing chess.
I agree.
And we're thinking of checkers. That's what I assume he's turned down the money.
That's what I feel like. That's what makes sense. That would be the smart sort of
He doesn't say
plan.
that though. He doesn't say,
Yeah.
he goes, it's a pride
No, he's
thing,
not gonna
it's
say
a
that,
respect thing.
And
you
it
know?
probably is as well. It's probably a combination.
That's all garbage. That's all garbage.
Combination.
And I'm coming from as an older guy
Yeah.
who has been around the league longer than him.
Yes.
I've been behind the scenes way longer than him.
Yeah.
I have the relationships to know how this works. I'm telling you now, Moicano, maybe you're right. Maybe they give you a favorable matchup and you extend your career. Maybe. And I fucking hope they do, and I hope that's why you're doing it.
All right, now this is what I would call shadow boxing, okay? Not in the physical sense, obviously, but he is literally, at this point, arguing against himself and only himself. He's arguing a point that he made up, that he thinks Moicano believes in, that he's never fucking said, and it's just pathetic, okay? And he was so close, too. In that clip, he was so close to getting it. Callan said, yeah, well, I think that's what he's doing. And Schaub goes, yeah, he doesn't say that, though. Yeah, no shit, you fucking idiot. Now, also, I want to point this out. Schaub was in the UFC for about 4 years, okay? Moicano's been in the UFC for 11. So I don't know where old Schaub thinks he's getting this seniority over Moicano, but it doesn't really exist. He's trying to make himself out to be this authoritative figure in the sport or whatever. And obviously, he's going to know how it works more than the vast majority of people, but maybe not more than a guy with almost 3 times your experience.
Stand there. I expect even a blowback from this 14 days later.
Keep it going.
Dude, I got too many fish to fry. I fried this Brazilian fish fucking 10 days ago. I don't go back for leftovers.
I don't know that. I never got that you were actually attacking Moicano anyway. You were just kind of saying, hey, the UFC doesn't work this way, right?
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
All right, now we will end it there, okay? I mean, he did kind of attack him, as I showed, called him stupid, brainwashed, and blamed Moicano essentially, or at least him, along with fighters like him, for being the reason that fighters don't get paid more, I guess. It just blows me away sometimes how Schaub will have a moment where he gets people back on his side. Do you know what I mean? He'll make a decent point about something. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. Do you know what I mean? But then usually he just fucks it all up, and whatever happens during the follow-up. Like, if Moicano had never responded, I think it would have been a lot better for Schaub, because his initial point would have just stood on its own. He wouldn't have had to spend 15 minutes trying to argue against things that Moicano never said, arguments he didn't make, and things like that. But anyways, that's it, okay? You guys have a good weekend. I'll be live streaming the fights tomorrow if you want to stop by. Go ahead and do so. If not, all good, okay? I'll see you at the next one. Like, subscribe, all that good shit. Bye-bye.